Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mile High Sports Symposium. I'm JT Matthews at JT Matthews01 on Twitter, and I'm here, as always, with the doctor, Nicholas Manning at DR_and Manning on Twitter. And we have a special guest today, a man that really needs no introduction, but we're going to give him one anyways. One Mario Vetanze at Vetanze Therapy on Twitter and VetanzeTherapy.com if you want some merch. How we doing, boys? Doc, how you doing today?
I'm stellar. I can't get enough of my guy right here. So not only am I in a good mood, but now I'm in a gooder mood. You look fantastic.
It's weird. Like, you know, they would look good. They would look good on us, but for some reason you just pull it off to another level.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the whole. It's everything. None of this is on accident. You know what I'm saying?
No, you don't trip and fall and land into beauty. You know. There's some intention behind it, that's for sure.
I'm just really glad that you can't see Dr. Nick's calves from this angle because that would put everything that I got going on to shame. So this is beneficial to me for sure.
Yeah, that's the OnlyFans. You can catch that later. Mario, how you doing, man? I don't think that we've really interfaced much in person. We're in some similar circles, of course. You and the doc are. The docs come to you for some treatment. You guys have played some football together. I've been on, we've been on kind of the same outside circle, at least for me. How you doing? Good to personally interface with you. Glad to have you on the pod.
Yeah, dude, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that Doc reached out and that we have this opportunity to do this. You know, there's very few things that I enjoy more than talking sports and making sure that podcasts go off the rails. So you ask for Mario, you're gonna get Mario, and that's what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a beautiful disaster. It's gonna be like a car crash. You can't look away, and it's gonna slow down traffic. But a lot of people are gonna be interested in what's happening.
That's true. Yeah, we call it the Vetanze experience. You know, can't describe it.
Maybe we need to trademark that. Maybe I should trademark that.
Yeah.
Next shirt.
Next shirt.
Describe it.
Yeah. Yeah. Next hoodie line, the Vetanze.
I don't know how well that'll sell though.
At least maybe one.
Maybe better than you know.
Yeah.
Well, we're here to talk some sports. We brought Mario here mostly to talk about the Broncos, but we would be remiss to not mention some teams in town that are playing really well and that are a little more optimistic to talk about right now. So let's jump into some Nuggets talk to start. Nuggets are, I think, 8-1 since or maybe 9-1 now since the All-Star break. 9-1 with the one loss coming to the Phoenix Suns, which was a disappointing one. But, you know, Durant came up clutch. They tried to mount a comeback, weren't quite able to do it. But regardless, they beat Boston. They just came back from a 22-point deficit against Toronto the other night, where Joker scored 35, 17, and 12. They're rolling. They look like they're primed for playoff time.
It's like, and 6-2. The guy was like, stat stuffing. Dear.
Yeah.
That's gracious.
I mean, and Jamal just turned it on second half. They got it done. And they have a big game coming up against the Heat tonight. How are we feeling overall about the Nuggets? How are we feeling about the playoff positioning? Are they going to make a push and get that first seed, do you think? We'll give it to Mario.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but this is kind of what we've come to expect, right? It's like that Toronto game almost perfectly encapsulates the Nuggets. You know, the first half, you're kind of scratching your head. You're like, what the F is going on? Like, how are we losing the freaking Toronto Raptors? Like, Kelly Olynyk is cooking us right now. Like, this is ridiculous. Maybe they wanted to take it easy on their old buddy Bruce Brown. And what I love about this team is, like, after the first half, they're like, all right, we got to try. We got to start putting forth some sort of an effort. So let's do that. And the fact that they erased the 22-point deficit with relative ease, really. And not only that, but the general perception of everything going on is like, I think everybody expected them to still win that game, despite the fact that they were down by 22 points. It's like, oh, well, you know, they'll turn it on. And the fact that they're able to do that, and I know it's against a lesser opponent. I know Toronto was missing some guys and they're far from a good team, but that's the kind of thing that you like to see. right?
Yeah,
and it's like
absolutely.
they're never out of a game. Again, I know it was just against Toronto, but the fact that they're able to just turn it on like that was a little bit disconcerting that they don't get up for games like that. Yeah, to an extent, but I think they've gotten to that point where they're bored with the regular season. They're like 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed. Like, it doesn't really matter. There's not a team in the West that can beat them in a 7-game series unless something crazy happens. And there might be 1 or 2 teams in the East that can beat them in a 7-game series. So, like, obviously, home court advantage would be massive as you get towards the end. And you want to make sure you have a higher seed than whatever team comes out of the East, because the Nuggets do have that home court advantage, and they're playing the majority of their games at Ball Arena. They're not going to lose at Ball Arena. Like, they're not going to lose enough games if they're playing the majority at Ball Arena for any of these series really to be competitive. Again, as long as they stay healthy, as long as they continue on this trajectory, like you said, 9-1 after the break, they were a little bit off. Like, the fact that they still had a chance to win that game against Phoenix, despite really being flat for most of that game, I think that perfectly encapsulates how this team is. And you just have to hope and expect that once the playoffs start, it's like, all right, the on switch is staying on. They're not going to fall flat. They're not going to have some of these random games where they look completely disinterested. You can call them scheduled losses if you want, but I could not be higher on the Nuggets right now. It's like they have the perfect team construct. They have the perfect coach for it. They have the depth that they were, needing to replenish after the departure of Bruce Brown. And I mean, there's really, if this team is playing the way that they're capable of, there's not really a weakness. And as long as you have Nikola Jokic on your team, doing what he does and facilitating, making everyone around him better, they are the favorites to win to win the championship again. Well, count the national championship.
They
definitely
there would be national,
sure.
world, whatever, universal champions, all of it. Yeah, they're now in that coveted 2 seed. And I think, let's see, win percentage wise, they are tied.
I think they have
with
the same
Thunder for the one.
record as.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they have the same record, don't they?
Yeah, I think they were down in head to head, but where they were at a week ago, I think they were 4th battling with 5, and now they're in the driver's seat. I think you hit on so much of it. One, you have the best player in the world, and it's not even close. I think when you have that, you have a team that buys into what they're cooking, right? So guys turn it on one game and are okay getting 4 shots the next. It seems like they are an egoless group. I am concerned that it takes a while to turn it on. An 82-game season, though, I'm sorry, you're just not going to have it every night. You just won't. And to think that you would for Toronto, when the only player that you know over there is Bruce Brown because he played here. And so I expect them to have some of those lulls. I think it is more telling that they can turn it on and put teams away than it is that they sleepwalk a half. So I couldn't be higher on them also. I think it's, they're a lion playing with their food. They're bored. And it's been a while, really, since we've had a team in this area that's been that good, right? That is just, it's them versus the field. It's Tiger Woods, with his rich, like it's the Nuggets versus the field. I don't know. I like our matchup against anyone, really. We saw what Boston had in store. The Nuggets got them both times, and I don't think that they learned anything new. I don't think Boston learned anything new, and they by far and away are the team to beat in the East. Milwaukee maybe climbs up there, but no one really. If you look at that conference, makes me feel worried. I think really it's all kind of in the Western Conference, and they have something for everyone. So the best NBA duo right now is Jamal and Jokic. I don't know that that's debatable. I think what they're able to do and how they're able to play and play with each other and support one another, play off of, it's beautiful to see. I just don't know if we've had this feeling, since I don't know how long, since the 98 Broncos, right?
Yeah, probably.
And it was really the postseason that we were waiting for. So this is fun. Like, I like it. We should do it.
It's funny. Like last season, towards the end of the season, they just kind of turned off the Jets and kind of cruised to the end. And I think, left some people concerned. I was one of those people that I was like, I don't know, we lost some momentum going into the playoffs. Maybe this is going to be a trouble spot. And then they came out and dominated. So I try not to overreact to games like against Toronto, especially when we win them. But even, there's going to be some losses coming down to the end of the season. It's just inevitable, right? It's the NBA. Teams are getting up to play the Nuggets. You wanted to take your shot at the defending champs. So they're going to hit some rough patches potentially on the way to the end. I think they do want to lock up the top seed. I think they do. I think they want that home court advantage at least till the finals. I don't know that you will surpass the Celtics in their record right now. But I don't know that you're too worried about, a head-to-head matchup with them. I think obviously you respect them and they're a great team and they can beat you. But you've played them twice head-to-head in playoff style games and have come out the victor. And so, it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out. But I do think that they are going to make a push for that top seed. I do think that's something that they want. And OKC does hold the tiebreaker right now. And just remember that one of those games was without Jokic. So I don't feel too bad about that.
We'll say this. I'm really excited to see the mental gymnastics that we are going to witness once the playoff starts, because I feel like we're going to get that every single series, like from a fan base or from someone who they think they figured it out. They think they cracked the code of how to slow down Nikola Jokic. And I saw a little bit of it with Celtics fans, arguably the most delusional fans in all of sports up in that Boston area. Sorry, but absolutely not sorry. Where they're like, oh, well, the Celtics, and I don't know all of their personnel. I don't know that team intimately. Like, I couldn't imagine wasting my time like that. But they're like, oh, well, they were playing certain guys that they wouldn't play in these situations. And I think they just didn't want to show the Nuggets everything that they had because they might see the Nuggets in the finals. It's like they're playing chess and the Nuggets are playing checkers. It's like, I don't care what game you're playing. The Nuggets beat you on your home court. And it was like the first time all season. The Nuggets beat you on their home court. They can outscore you. They can hold you defensively. It's like but if that's what you need with your fragile little ego and your fragile little, Boston self to convince yourself that, the Celtics are better than the Nuggets. Like, if those are the mental gymnastics that you have to do, don't sprain your ankle, okay? Don't throw your arm out of the socket, because that's the kind of mental gymnastics it's going to take for you to actually convince yourself that you can stop Jokic. You can't. You have to just let Jokic be Jokic, and you have to hope that one of the other pieces of this Nuggets team falls short and falls flat. Like, MPJ's not hitting his shots. Jamal Murray isn't being playoff Jamal Murray. Aaron Gordon isn't having the impact. Like, this is where teams need to start targeting the Nuggets. Because all you can do in hopes of slowing down Jokic is just hope he has an off night. There is no scheme. There is no player. There is nothing that you can draw up that is going to limit him. He is the only person that can limit Nikola Jokic, period.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been hearing how good Anthony Davis has been defensively for the last year and this season specifically, but it doesn't seem to bother Jokic at all.
Jokic put Davis in a knapsack and then took him around the park.
Remember when Rui Hachimura was going to be the Jokic stopper?
The Jokic stopper.
And Laker fans were so sure that they figured something out. I actually think I saw one guy say, it was like, well, you know what? If this was like a 10-game series, then the Lakers would have come back and won.
You remember the people were like, this is the best.
Delusions are
this
at
is
an
the
all-time
best
high.
anyone's ever looked getting swept in the history of the playoffs. Like, people were taking like pride, and
we
lost 4 games in a row.
That was the most pathetic thing you will ever heard said in sports.
We tried hard. Yeah,
Jokic is what it reminded me of that scene in when Michael Jordan played baseball, and he's like, yeah, man, when you strike out, man, you look at when I strike out, man, it looks nasty, man. Like, it had that kind of energy.
It had that vibe.
You got swept and you didn't really come close to winning a game, but man, did you look pretty doing it? Good for you.
Good for you. Take that home.
That's funny too, because we played the Timberwolves the series before that, and their answer was kind of the same, which was 2 7-footers letting Gobert roam and having Cat big on Jokic, and me thinking the whole time when they have Rui on Jokic, like, why if Cat and Gobert can't do it, why do we think Rui and AD can do it?
And AD could do it,
even just from a size standpoint.
They've never seen Rui before. They weren't ready for Rui.
They weren't ready. No, he gave them some really good minutes. Yeah, in the end, I think to step in the ring with the champ, you have to be delusional. Like, you got to be a little crazy to try and like have a shot. Because if you go in there realistic, you've already lost probably. And so I agree. Jokic is at a level, and I really just don't know if people appreciate how good he is at what he does, because he dominates a game in so many aspects while keeping the rest of his teammates involved, right? He's not a ball stopper. He's not a volume shooter necessarily. He contributes in every way, shape, or form, whether that's picks, whether that's rebounding, whether it's his passing, whether it's just his knowledge, right? And being able to make sure guys get in the right spots, that everyone stays engaged while they play. You usually don't see that with stars, right? It's get out of my way ball. Let me take over. Guys are standing at the 3-point line waiting to shoot. Most of them can't shoot. But that's not really what we're experiencing. And I think we're going to blink. He's going to retire down the road. We're not going to see another one like that. And I really hope not only are we enjoying making other fan bases cry, which is super fun, but that we appreciate just
especially Laker fan bases,
phenomenal, especially. My goodness gracious. Oh, it's like Cowboy, like Yankee. Stop it. You got that Lakers starter kit, with your jacket, and oh God, I can't have it. But you know what? We have the best team in basketball. We have the best player in the world. And maybe this was for future pod discussions. Is Nikola Jokic the best player at his sport in the entire realm of sports? Is he playing the best? Like, is he, if you put him next to Mahomes, who's doing it better at their job? I feel like that'd be a fun little debatesies.
Well, Mahomes is a system quarterback, so I'm not going to really give him that much credit. I mean, he's
won't know until Andy Reid retires.
He was carried by his defense throughout the playoffs. So yeah, talk to me when Travis Kelce and Andy Reid are gone, and then you can try and convince me he's not a system. I'm just joking. I don't want angry
Nikola Jokic is
literally nothing else going on in their lives coming after me. No, but here's the thing, like. I keep saying this, like something that I've realized, if any other player in the NBA gets a triple-double, it's a big deal. Yep. It's like, oh my gosh, this guy got a triple-double. He had a phenomenal game, even if it's, 10, 10, and 10. It's like, well, he really filled it up. We have gotten to the point now where we are so conditioned to see this greatness of Nikola Jokic. If he doesn't have a triple-double, it's like, man, what was up with Nikola tonight? Yeah. He seemed like he really just he couldn't get it going. He really had a rough game. It's like dude scores, he goes 27, 12, and 8. And you're like, man, couldn't get a triple double?
Right. Weird. Out there.
It's weird. It's like weird.
That wasn't honed in.
Conditioned to see that. Yep. And I'm a victim of it too. It's like I don't get a chance to watch all of the Nuggets games, and I'll look at the box score and kind of check out who did what. And on the rare occasion that I see Jokic didn't have a triple double, I'm like, what went wrong? This is so weird. Even on nights, it's like he scores 38 and 8. I'm like, man, not even a double-double? Yeah. Weird. And they win by 30, so it doesn't really matter. This is just where we're at as a fan base. And I honestly think, like, you're talking about why, more people maybe don't realize it, or maybe they're starting to. This has just become a common occurrence. Where it's like every week he's doing something that hasn't been done since Wilt, hasn't been done since Kareem, hasn't been done since Michael Jordan, hasn't been done since insert name here. And now we're getting into the stratosphere of never been done ever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's unbelievable. And I hope if you're watching this and you're a Nuggets fan, like really, really appreciate this, because the only thing that is going to deter this is the fact that Jokic doesn't want to play basketball that long. I mean, he'll probably play out his contract, but whenever he decides like he's good. He's good. He's going to go move back to Serbia. He's going to race horses as a 3-time MVP and a 3-time NBA champ, and he'll be happy as a clam, and he'll never look back.
Nope. Never. Like you said, he's the only one that can stop him. He's a guy that will age well too, right? Because he doesn't win on athleticism. He
doesn't jump. It's not like he's doing anything hard on his joints.
Right. He's gonna be fine for a while. I find I'm a victim of that too. There were games where he had triple doubles, but it was like 18, 10, and 10. And I was like, what did he? And then, you go look and it's because they won by 25 and sat the fourth quarter.
That's it?
Oh yeah. Or maybe he just
he didn't play the last quarter and a half.
Yeah.
So I'm pumped. I couldn't echo that more. I think I'm already kind of reserving my spot in in the parade line, and can't wait to make some people cry on the way. Go Nuggies.
For sure. Let's transition to the other team in town that has a chance at a championship right now, the Colorado Avalanche. Nathan McKinnon is in the lead with the points total in all of the NHL. They made a lot of trades at the deadline, getting some key pieces, a second line center and Casey Middlestat. They sent out Bo Byram, but they brought in Sean Walker to kind of fill in that place. They've kind of moved Manson up in the defensive rotation to fill in that void, but got Walker, who's kind of a pusher of offensive play as a defenseman, which is something that we've seen up and down the lines for the Colorado Avalanche. How are we feeling about that? Are we feeling good right now? Doc, I know you said before we jumped on here that you wanted to make sure we talked about the Avalanche. So now you have the floor.
It's similar. It's they're like a similar spot, like a similar feel. Not as strong because of last year's kind of burnout and questions that surround whether or not some key pieces will remain a part of the team and not flake off. But the moves that they made, I thought were not only like strong moves, but they were long-term moves, right? So you move Bo Byram at 22 for the long-awaited replacement for Nazem Kadri, and you get the 25-year-old replacement of a guy that's been contributing in the NHL for some time, and then some guys that'll do the dirty work. And really, again, it's kind of Cup flashback. If they get above average goaltending, there isn't a series this team can't win. I don't know. I am not as strong in my confidence as I am with the Nuggets, just because of recency and how they performed. But even Zach Parise, who most people scoffed at about that addition, washed, he's all that stuff. He's played some dang good hockey for this group. So if there were a time for them to start meshing, which they are, right now is a really good time. You get a really nice matchup tonight against the Vancouver Canucks, and a team that has similar record. There we go, similar record, but has been playing really well all season. And I'm all for the litmus tests that are ahead. And I think it's pretty exciting that we are probably going to have MVPs play out of the same building in the same season, which is that's just super dope. I don't know how many times that happens. We have, MVPs of major sports teams in the same community within the same year. I think that's probably not happening very much. Yeah. And again, I don't know that we appreciate how freaking good the hockey that we're getting and the tear that Nathan McKinnon is on. So I can't wait for tonight's game, and really just wish that the playoffs started for both teams tomorrow. Yeah, because I think we're destined to see some really good stuff at Ball Arena.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think the biggest thing with the Avalanche is you want to make sure that they're hitting their stride right at the right time. Adding new guys, you have to make sure that they flow. You have to make sure that you're on the same page. You have to make sure that the spacing is good. Because when you play with a player like Nathan McKinnon, when you play with a guy like Cale Makar, you have to be in the right place at the right time at all times. It's very similar to how the Nuggets are with Nikola Jokic. The spacing and the timing is so imperative to everything that they want to do. And when you're talking about a team like this, like obviously there's a lot that goes into hockey and there's a lot of guys on the team, blah, blah, blah. But if you have a guy like Nathan McKinnon, you are always going to be a contender. If you have a guy like Cale Makar, who really hasn't even hit his stride yet, and I'm really hoping that as the playoffs get closer, he's starting to get better. He's starting to figure it out. He hasn't quite been the Cale that we've seen the last few years. And maybe it's just a little bit of rust. Maybe it's fluky. Maybe it's Zibs. I'm not sure. I don't have any sort of justification for it, but I do have the confidence that it's going to turn around. Because the thing is, when you have a player of those calibers, like between Cale and McKinnon, not even mentioning Ranson at this point or Val or guys like that, you have to be a contender. And you're right, Nick, as long as they are getting above average goaltending, kind of like when they won the cup, it's I'm pretty sure Darcy was one of I think he had the second worst save percentage in the history of a Stanley Cup winner, but it didn't matter. It's he did just enough. He had the good games when he needed to. He stood on his head when he needed to, and he did exactly as much as he needed to in order to win. And I think as this team starts to find their groove, finally they have that second line center that they have been yearning for ever since Nazem Kadri has left. And as long as they can get on the same page. And my biggest fear, here's the biggest issue with a guy like McKinnon, not that it's him, but what we saw in the Seattle series last year, from what I could tell, is you got all of this production out of Rantanen during the season, and he disappeared during the first round of the playoffs. And it really felt like watching those games, guys were kind of sitting around waiting for McKinnon to do something.
Yep.
And then he did, but then they wouldn't follow it up. Like, they could never seem to capitalize on the momentum. And I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, every single game, maybe except for one, the Kraken scored the first goal.
Yes.
You never want to get behind the 8-ball like that.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was all of them. And so as long as this team understands, it's like, yeah, Nathan McKinnon is a freak. He's going to win the Hart Trophy. He's the best player in the NHL right now. Top 3, not debatable, right? You cannot stand around, though, because you still have 3 other lines that you need to worry about. You still have plenty of other guys that still need to show up. It's like, hockey is so different because with the Nuggets, you're talking about what are you doing with those non-Jokic minutes? In hockey, It can't be the same, because the non-Nathan McKinnon minutes are going to trump the amount of minutes of like the non-Jokic minutes, because they're completely different sports. So they have to make sure that they're in the right mindset and go in there knowing like, all right, Nate's going to do his job. We know that we don't need to worry about him, but this cannot all be on him. Right. Everybody else has to stand up and do their job. And that was my biggest problem with the Seattle series last year. It's like guys were moving in slow motion. They were uninspired. Maybe they were just burnt out from the short off season after the cup and the long season that came, and then playing without Landeskog, without their captain. I mean, there were a lot of factors. But that is the one thing that scares me. Like, as long as guys don't get complacent, because like you had said, I think JT, you brought it up, like the Avs were looking really good last year. Like the Nuggets going into the playoffs, we were worried because they were on a bit of a skid. The Avalanche looked like they were getting hot at the right time, and then they just hit a brick wall. So as long as they can tie that a little bit better and they get hot into the playoffs and stay hot, that's how they're going to be able to be competitive. But yeah, I'm much more confident in the Nuggets' ability to like win another championship than I am with the Avs right now. And honestly, for me, like the biggest thing is goaltending. Like, it just scares me. It's like every once in a while you'll get a phenomenal performance, but far too often, you're having stinkers. If I remember correctly, when they played Calgary last night, it ended up not being a problem, but in the first period, they gave up 2 goals on the first 6 shots. It's unacceptable. I don't care what the situation is. Like, you need to be better. And thankfully, after that, he was better. But that has to continue. Like, if you're getting, like, I don't think this team is as good as they were 2 years ago, to the point where you can get average to above average goaltending. You're going to have to get better goaltending than what Darcy gave you a couple seasons ago. Yeah. Then and only then will I feel confident that they can bring home another cup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they made the moves that they did. I think you needed some second line scoring. I think Middlestat will fill that. He had a goal last night, which was nice to see him get one in an Avs jersey, sweater rather. And then bringing in guys like Duhaime and Trennan were really good for the power, for the PK. Walker's another PK guy that that's going to be clutch. That's going to be a big thing coming down the pike into the playoffs and then and into the playoffs. So your special teams has got to be on point. They made improvements there. And so I think, I'm happy with the moves that they made. I think we do have to see them kind of gel a little bit, see if they build some of that chemistry that we're hoping that will be there. So far, so good, but it's really early, so hard to say. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos, though. This is what we brought Mario here to talk about. Probably going to be a little less optimistic than our last 2 teams that we spoke about. However, seems like we're moving into a new era of Broncos football. I think I was going to kind of preface it and talk about all the moves. I think I'm just going to give Mario the floor. Mario, I want you to talk about what you want to talk about. I want you to say what's on your heart right now as we go into this rebuilding mode, as we've been hearing it referred to.
Why does God keep giving me his toughest battles? It's something that I'm trying to wrap my head around. No, in all honesty, it is funny, the dynamic, is we're like, God, we're going to suck this year. It's like, what if we been for the past
what have we been doing?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm saying it's like we haven't not only have we not made the playoffs, we really haven't sniffed the playoffs. Like we came kind of close, like we had a puncher's chance this past season. But I think anyone that watched this team consistently last year knew that they weren't a playoff team. And that 5-game win streak, as incredible as it was not sustainable because the defense was unbelievable. Unfortunately, when it came down to Russell Wilson having to win us football games, he was not able to do so. Argue with a wall. I don't care. You can feel bad for Russell Wilson like all you want. Go take a look at his bank account. Go look at who he's married to. Go look at all of the properties that he owns. The last person on the planet Earth that you should ever feel bad for is Russell Wilson, because he just got paid, what was it, $200 million, $500 million, $1 billion to win 11 games in 2 seasons. Okay. And then I'm glad that Bronco Bill popped in here and said the release of Justin Simmons was a complete mistake. This is what I want to talk about. Obviously, I'm devastated. I've known Justin since he was a rookie. He's been a friend of mine since he was a rookie. We've become very close. Our families know each other. Our kids are friends. Like, our relationship goes far beyond football. And we had actually talked about it last season where, like, selfishly, as his friend and as someone who works on him, like, of course I want him here. I wanted him to be a lifelong Denver Bronco.
Yeah.
And it just seems like in today's NFL, the idea of there being a lifelong player for a certain team, it's an ideology that simply doesn't exist anymore. It is such a rarity because players have changes of heart and franchises have changes of heart. Now, as a fan of his, like as a fan of Justin Simmons, and I'll be a fan of his no matter where he goes, I'm glad that he doesn't have to be on this team next year, because as it stands right now, this is not a playoff team. This is lucky to win 5 games kind of a team, unless something drastic changes, and I think that's what they're getting at. I think that's kind of what they're preparing for. They want to batten down the hatches, and this is what they're expecting. And I actually talked to Justin, and I told him, I was like, look, man, and this was actually me like talking myself through everything, like trying to talk myself off of a cliff, because it was a rough morning. Of course, I had like a dozen different people text me. It's like, hey man, how are you doing? It's like, bad, really bad. It sucks, and I hate it here, and I want to leave. But as I'm talking to Justin, I'm kind of talking through these things. Justin really statistically is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Now, I don't know if he'll get to that point. I think he certainly has to put several more years of service in. But on the trajectory that he's on, like everything that he's been able to accomplish, like from a personal standpoint, he's done everything. Multiple-time Pro Bowler, multiple-time All-Pro, multiple-time Walter Payton Man of the Year. No player in the entire NFL has more interceptions since the day he got drafted. Yep. And so his body of work speaks for itself. The biggest deprecating thing for the case against him as a potential Hall of Fame career is he's never sniffed the playoffs through no fault of his own. But then you hear people saying, like, how many times did a safety win you a game? How many times did a safety win you a game? It's like, that is so dang stupid. Sorry, I'm trying not to cuss. I'm not sure if this is a family show or not. But it's like, you need good players. You need leaders. It is not Justin's fault that he has been the best safety in the league since he got drafted, and they have not won a playoff game, because there's 52 dudes on the team, or 53 dudes on the team. There's 11 dudes on each side of the ball. And it's just a shame that you have had one of, if not the best at their position for the longest time, and you have garnered absolutely nothing from it because you were so inept in so many other instances of the game. But if you're one of these people who it's like, oh yeah, we don't really need him because, you know, he never won us any games, like, you're not a smart fan. I'm just going to say it. Yeah. You're overthinking things, and I get it. You're hurt. We're all hurt. We've been really down bad since the Super Bowl. Let your anger out. That's okay. But just know that if you say something stupid, you're going to get called out for saying something stupid, and you're going to be called stupid. Now, maybe you're not a stupid person. Maybe your brain was just stupid in that instance, which is why I'm here to tell you, don't be stupid. That's all. So now, as we move forward, and I'm going to move on from the Justin Simmons talk because it's just going to make me cry, okay?
Fair.
What they're doing now, it seems like they're headed in the right direction because we're finally getting a full rebuild. No more Band-Aids, no more trying to duct tape a dam. They are finally breaking it all down, and this is the difference. This is not a team that is trying to tread water. A team that is trying to tread water that maybe has the delusions of being competitive, they're holding on to a Justin Simmons. They're holding on to a Jerry Jeudy. They're bringing back a Lloyd Cushenberry, a Josie Jewell. These things that happen, they're not happening with a team that can be competitive. And at the end of the day, and I tweeted this out, and it was a little bit in jest and a little bit tongue in cheek, but there is some truth to it. A lot of the fault falls on Russ. Now I get it. Russ isn't the one that signed himself to the contract. I get that. And if you want to gripe about the contract that he got, you are well within your right, because it was a stupid contract. They gave him way too much money. But we're also benefiting from hindsight being 2020. At the time of the signing, like, shoot, guys, I'm sure you were just like me. When we traded for Russell Wilson, I was devastated about Shelby Harris because that's another one of my guys. I was like, you know what? If it netted us Russell Wilson, like, this is finally it. Because the general consensus was that this team was a good quarterback away from being a true contender, right? And we all saw how that panned out. Not Russ's fault that he got the contract, but 100% unequivocally Russ's fault that he fell grossly short of what he was paid. It was highway robbery what he was able to get away with. And you can blame the lack of success on anything that you want. The bottom line is, when Russ arrived in Denver, he was a Hall of Fame quarterback. And at this juncture right now, maybe he's Hall of Fame, but he's not first ballot. He's not second ballot. He's a guy that might get in a little bit down the road. And I think this might be the first instance that we have ever seen someone kind of tarnish their Hall of Fame career by how poorly they played after building said Hall of Fame career. So again, if you want to be mad and you want to side with Russell Wilson and think that the Broncos did him dirty, go look at how much he made. The Broncos did not do him dirty. They gave him every opportunity to succeed, and he did not do it. You don't think that the Broncos would have preferred that Russell Wilson worked out? You don't think that they, like, all this money that they got to pay, you don't think that they would prefer for him to be actually on the freaking team giving him that money? They thought that he was so bad and that he was such a terrible option that they would rather pay, what is the final number, $80 million over 2 years or whatever it is. They would rather pay that to not have him on the team. That's how bad the situation got. And if you want to be one of these people that credits him with a 5-game win streak, again, he made plays when he needed to, because that's what Russell Wilson does. He needs a really good run game, which the Broncos did not really have. And he needs to make plays when he's asked to do so, and he needs a really good defense. During that 5-game stretch, the Broncos defense was on an insane tear. The amount of turnovers they got, someone said it was the most that a team had done in a 5-game stretch since like the 80s. Awesome, not sustainable. At some point, your $1 billion quarterback has to put the team on his back and has to win you games. He did that in Seattle. He did not do that here, period. And that's what they paid him to do. So now we are left in the wreckage of, if Russ had panned out and Russ had been what they thought he would be, or maybe even a little bit less, all of these guys, Justin Simmons, still on the team. Jerry Jeudy, probably still on the team. Like Lloyd Cushenberry, Josie Jewell, much better chance of them being brought back. But because it didn't work out, and because he was so bad, they are having to start completely over. So as much as I hate this, as a fan of Justin Simmons, as a fan of this team, at least they are steering into the skid and understanding that, okay, everything that we've been doing for the past 8 years, it doesn't work. It's insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results, it's insanity, and that's exactly what they've been doing. And you know that Broncos country is down bad when people are upset that we didn't sign Sam Darnold, Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew. When people are upset that we didn't trade for Mac Jones, again,
Mac Jones,
stupid. I know you're down bad, and I feel really bad, and I feel really bad saying this. But if you're upset that they didn't get Sam Darnold, if you're upset that they didn't trade for Mac Jones or insert dumb quarterback here who is a bridge and will not bring you to the playoffs, you shouldn't be watching football.
Fair.
You should go into the corner and color and try to stay in the lines, because
Stay
that's
in the
something
lines.
more your
Because you probably can't do it.
Stay in the line.
I will add. I think where Russ went wrong is the lack of introspection of, like, the player that he is. You know, it's like me going to a pickup game, 5'8". Okay, I'm going to a basketball pickup game. And you know what? I'm going to dominate from the block today, because I think I can. I think if I dominate from the block, I'm not going to have to run as much. I can prolong my pickup game career. That's not what I'm good at. and I don't have the tools to be good at that thing. Russ didn't have the tools to be Drew Brees. Why he was adamant about changing how he played. One, it goes to ego, right? Like, and lack of accountability to himself to go be the player that you were. If we got the player that he was capable of, even in the down year, the year before, so 22 or 2021, that was still damn good football. It wasn't his, who he was or what he wasn't. But if we got that level of play in Denver, I mean, it's a totally different story, like you said. And just the narrative, Hackett probably still has his job, right? Like, just don't mess it up, kind of let it go. And the fact that you brought up the tarnishment of his Hall of Fame career while still in an age that is seen as a quarterback's prime right now, right? Your early to mid 30s. That's when your brain is processing at elite. You've seen everything multiple times. You know different offensive languages, etc. So it's not like Brett Favre where it's like the end of your career and you didn't listen to your body and your last couple of years kind of sucked. Like, you still had every skill to you and chose to thicken up to be a quarterback that you weren't. So now you couldn't run. And then when you just put yourself behind the 8 ball. And I think that's the part that I don't think I'll get over, is just not recognizing who you are. The fan base deserved that version of Russ to come in here and be that version of Russ. And then maybe you grow to be able to do some more things that are Drew Brees-ish, but come in and win football games first, right? Come in and establish yourself as a good football player and not so much the brand part. And I that's the part that I regret, is looking past some of that stuff and hoping that this was going to be a positive marriage for sure. I really like what the Broncos have done. I agree with you. I don't like the loss of the players, because I think that shows the organizational aptitude up to this point. That said, if you're going to rip off the Band-Aid, rip off the Band-Aid. Jerry wasn't going to flourish here. Goodbye. Justin deserves an opportunity to go win a championship. And we're not going to do that in the next couple of years. We're not in a window where a 31-year-old phenomenal safety is going to change the outcome of this team, because we're just bad. And Kush earned himself a payday. Good for him. That's a position that we have the luxury of trying to manage differently. And I like the shrewd moves. It sucks because the first wave of free agency is always fun. Your team gets it, like, you're paying attention, you stay up late, you turn on your notifications from Rap Sheet and Shefty. But that's what we did last year, and that didn't work very well. So I think a much more methodical, strategic effort in addressing long-term issues, creating some actual building blocks, I think is super impactful. And know what I think is going to be really interesting, because we all think that the Broncos are probably not going to be as good next year. By we, I mean everybody. Watch them go and shock us and win 10 games, because maybe they're building something the right way with guys that don't have to unlearn losing, right? And that kind of stuff. I'm excited about it. I think we're going to get to see something special. I do think, and I want both of your boys' takes, is this the year we draft a quarterback, and not like late round guy you throw a flyer dart at? Do we draft him this year? Are the Broncos not getting crappy veteran quarterbacks, or making a deal for a washed up or a prospect who's been failing currently in Justin Fields or Sam Howell, because Sean Payton knows that he's going to get his guy in the draft? Is this finally the year we grow our own, guys? Is this the year?
I think if you're committed to a rebuild, then I think it makes the most sense. I think if you want to give this fan base something to believe in, you go and handpick a guy that you like in the first round, and you cultivate him. It's funny. Mario, you said, no more bridge quarterbacks, no more bridge quarterbacks. That's what we were talking about, right? When you said Sam Darnold, people mad about Sam Darnold and Mac Jones and these guys. That's the names that have been floated out there. We got to get away from that. We need actual competition in camp. We need young talent on this team. If you're tearing it down, then you got to tear it down. and bring in some people that have some high upside, right? And so whether you think that product's finished or not, if you can see kind of some shine down the road, then I think you take a chance on it. Is that how you feel, Mario?
No.
Okay. No, that's good. I'm glad.
All right, next topic as we move forward.
No, here's why. We'll unfortunately I have to wrap here because we gotta get back to it. But here's why I say that. Like, I guess at the end of the day, it depends on how the board is going to fall. And if the movie Draft Day taught us anything, it's that if a quarterback doesn't have a bunch of people going to his birthday, then he can free fall, and we never know what's going to happen. So here's the thing: like, if a Drake May or if a JJ McCarthy drop further than they are expected, then yeah, I think the Broncos need to be a little bit aggressive and go after him. But here's the problem: if you're wanting to trade up for a Drake May, for a JJ McCarthy, the Giants need a quarterback at 8. The Vikings need a quarterback at 11. So you're needing, or 6. I'm sorry, Giants at 6, Vikings at 11. So you're having to leapfrog those teams. Here's the problem: you can't trade up to 6 because the Giants want that pick to take their guy. You're not going to be able to go up to 5 because the Chargers aren't going to give you the 5th overall pick so that you can draft your franchise quarterback, especially since it's Harbaugh, and especially because it might be JJ McCarthy. There's no way that Harbaugh is going to want to play against McCarthy twice a year if he's as high on him as everybody else is. Are you going to go up to 4? Because then the price tag gets too high. So I think the problem is, if you're talking about one of the guys that they're considered as the big 4, I don't think you have the ammunition, but how much of your future do you want to mortgage? Everybody, there's always a price. There's always a price that they will ask for. There's always a price that someone is willing to pay. Are you willing to give up, this year's first round pick, next year's first round pick, the year after first round pick to go get a Drake May or JJ McCarthy? If they are that strongly convicted towards it and they feel like that's their guy for the next 15 years, then by all means, go do it. I just don't see it happening because the state that the team is in right now, it doesn't feel like where they're drafting, unless one of these guys falls, unless somebody leaks that, Drake May was smoking weed a week before the combine or a week before the draft. Maybe we can hope for that. Or maybe someone digs up some old racist tweets and he falls to us, but then that opens up a whole nother bad can of worms that maybe we don't want somebody like that. But that's really the only conceivable thing that happens. And so then you're talking about, all right, are you going to trade back and take a Bo Nix? To me, Bo Nix doesn't really move the needle. Do you take a Michael Penix? Do you take a Spencer Rattler? These middle of the road guys, it's are how set are we that they would be the guy? And pick like that, someone that's in the outside of the big 4, who's considered the big 4 right now. I think you're in the position where you would be drafting again. So my hope and prayer and dream, the only thing that can fix this broken heart from all of this situation right in here is if the Broncos are bad enough to take Shedeur Sanders next year. That's what I'm currently manifesting. That's what I'm speaking into existence. And again, everybody that thinks that he's not the first or second best quarterback coming out in that class, what's the word we've been using? Stupid.
Stupid. All right. Well, we appreciate you, brother. We know you gotta run. Thank you for gracing us with your time, sir. And we will catch you on the flip.
It's been an absolute pleasure. JT, good unofficially meeting you. Dr. Nick, it's a shame having to see you over the computer because you're so unbelievably handsome in person. And, seeing you on a screen really doesn't do it justice. But it's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Go Nuggets, go Avalanche, and God help the Broncos.
God help them.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Love you, brother.
See you guys. Thanks again, man. I got to get.
Well, I really like. Let's just maybe wrap some of that thought before we jet. We definitely like some folks from the chat. Maybe tell us who you want and what you got. I really like David Talks Broncos take. Right? Maybe you draft a Michael Pratt, Spencer Rattler, and you see if something's there for a season to put yourself in a position to get, quote, the guy, end quote. I think I'm of the camp. I don't think they have what it takes to get up, and I don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna trade back, stockpile, and just try and build the roster, a la what the Texans did. I think the Texans did some really good stuff in building their team so that when they drafted CJ Stroud, he had a supporting cast, right? Not bereft of talent all over the place, but really good blindside protector. I think a good array of some talented receivers and a defense that has some pieces. And I think that model, right? Don't force it. Take a guy you love. Until then, build a good football team. Because really, we need draft picks, and I mean that by we need controllable, long-term options that can grow with us to help replenish. We can't just keep, Band-Aid fixing the holes that we're knocking in through free agency. So I unfortunately have moved towards. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback in the first round, unless someone would have to fall. I don't think that will occur. QB starved league, all that good stuff. But I do think they will take a quarterback. I think it will either be Pratt or Rattler mid rounds, and I think that they're going to get lucky and be able to take a really good football player in the first round because of the thirst traps that are quarterbacks right now. So what is your take? And then we'll adjourn today.
Yeah, I would like for them to get the quarterback of the future. That's what I would like. Now, is that realistic? Right. I think that's a completely different conversation, right? Kind of as Mario stated, who knows? Those first 11 picks in front of you, there's a lot of quarterback need. We'll see. Someone might drop, like Mario stated. I tend to think that we may move backwards. That's what I would kind of like, ideally, to kind of collect some more picks, get someone. I think probably where we are, there's going to be some individuals that maybe we can wait on. There's some individuals that other teams are going to need ahead of us, top cornerbacks that we could take and we could pair with Pat Surtain, or we could trade back and accumulate some assets and kind of bring in a little more young talent, kind of like we talked about before. That's probably the route that I would go. But, we talk about Sean Payton and his offensive IQ and his game planning. And if he sees a guy that's going to fit into all of that and he thinks can make those moves, then I think they're going to be aggressive. This team has been bereft of quarterback talent for a long time. And Russ, as talented as he had been and was at times with us in Denver, it never brought us over the top. There was never a view on the other side of the mountaintop, right? Like, we would get halfway up and we'd fall, and we'd get halfway up and we'd fall. Even when we had Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock, it was a matter of like, do you go with the vet? Do you go with the young guy that we're not really sure about? There were always question marks about it. I think whatever they do at the quarterback position, I want them to be definitive in their decision. I don't want it to be, well, let's see how this pans out. I want them to say, this is our guy. This is who we're going to roll with. Let's develop them and let it be. But preferably, I think we accumulate some draft picks if possible.
Nailed it.
All right. I think we got a wrap today. Thank you so much, everyone, for checking us out today. Mario, again, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you all. We'll be back about this time next week. We got another, I'd say, high-ish profile guest that is going to join the doc. And so we'll reveal that later on Twitter. But until then, hang in there, guys. Go Broncos, go Avs, go Nuggets, go Rockies. And if you need a sports opinion, make sure you ask a doctor.
I'm in. See you, friend.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high,